Hi, everybody. It's Erica from In the Company of Cards. Long time no see. Um, I was going to come on yesterday, but I had a feeling that today would be a better day, that there would be some some issues of real import that wouldn't be settled until today or addressed until today. And so that's why I'm only coming to you now. If you've not read my Substack, I suggest that you do, because I think I made a point in advance of today that I am kind of surprised by um, how much I agree with myself in what I wrote on my Substacks. So go check that out if you want. It's free. Welcome back. Happy to be with you. Um, I'm not going to say that the day is sort of full of happy news. I guess the best we can say about today, it's a beautiful sunny day here in Southern California, but then again, it usually always is. And it's Friday, so that's the extent of my good news. Um, there are maybe five things I think I want to look at. Um, so sort of, I don't know, let's just start. Okay, the first thing that I think I'm going to talk about is, occasionally I will be asked to look at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will feature largely in today's broadcast. And I get asked often, will they take away all of that executive power that they gave him? And the answer is no. They are very happy that they gave that to him. Obviously, I'm not talking about the three liberal judges on the court. I'm talking about the majority. They knew exactly what they were doing when they gave him that power. And I don't think that they're worried about, oh, well, eventually he won't be there and it'll be somebody else in power, and maybe we won't agree with that person's stances. Um, and meanwhile, he'll have all that power. I don't even think they think that like that. I think that there are certain justices on the Supreme Court who have a vested interest in Project 2025 being enacted. And so, like Trump likes to say, oh, we won't need to have another election. I think that they're banking on that, the Supreme Court. I do. Um, so I will, don't even ask me, will the Supreme Court rein him in? Because they're not interested in reining him in. I saw that the dissent on the part of Sonia Sotomayor and Justice Jackson was vociferous. Um, I thought I wrote down what she said, but essentially, Justice Jackson said this is really the beginning of the end. And I'm going to say that it feels like that. It feels like the fall of Rome. Um, I've seen statistics, and do not ask me to cite my sources. You can look them up. That 47's approval rating amongst um, groups of color has increased. Now, you might think that that's counterintuitive. Why would it increase? I think that there are people who believe that um, this is the best that they can do, so they might as well side with him. We have a Democratic Party that is not doing very much. We have 128 Democrats who voted against bringing articles of impeachment to the floor. Democrats, 128 Democrats. Now, I guess the rationale that they would have given would be, well, we can bring it, but we don't have the numbers to follow it through. So Like, why would you still not want to go on record as being on the right side of history? So we've got two parties who are problematic. You know what? And I was going to talk about the Supreme Court, but I feel like I'm going to skip to another issue first and look at that, and then we'll go back. So I wanted to look at the Mamdani win in New York City. He is the candidate who was the social democrat. That's how he ran as a social democrat. He has the support of Bernie Sanders and AOC and other progressives, and he kicked Cuomo's rear end. Entertainment purposes only, YouTube. Um, Cuomo conceded, but it looks like Cuomo is still bound and determined that he's going to be on the ballot. He was asked why he was running again, and he said, "Well, this is what my family does." Now, that's the kind of answer that you would expect from, I don't know, William of England. Well, this is what my family does, because it is what his family does, right? But from an American, from Cuomo, well, this is what we do. We run things. Now, anyway, he got trounced, but this is just a primary, okay? So there will be a general election. Um, what I find disturbing is the fact that not only are Republicans dogpiling on Mamdani, but so are Democrats. Schumer, for example, has come out against him, has refused to endorse him at any rate. So, what's that about? And the fact of the matter is, the people of New York City voted for Mamdani. So, I don't know. I think maybe the days of the old boys club and the binary Democrat, Republican, and that's it. You don't have any other choices. That day may be done in New York. I hope so. But there is a lot of time still between now and when that election is going to happen. So I'm just, and um, time is mutable, things can happen, but I am going to just look and see. I know that Mamdani will face opposition that already is incredibly racist, in my opinion. Um, really racist, and from both sides. And so, they could gang up together against him. I don't know, but I would like to know what are Mamdani's chances of winning the mayoral race in New York City in November? Okay, so I'm going to have him be the young man, and we'll see what's around him. He's got a great platform, in my opinion. It's about, among other things, fair housing and health care. Here he is. Oh, so that is a rare occurrence, right? That it comes up the first or the last card. Here it's the first card, which means it's not going to be the one in the center. So that's interesting. Because it came out first, it'll be first in the line. So that's Mamdani. All right. Well, this is my first and earliest prediction on the mayoral race in New York City. I was raised in New York City, so I have a fondness for and a vested interest in what happens there. So we have Mamdani, we have the letter, and I would say that we should consider this the card for votes. The center card is the lily, clover, and anchor. So I think that what will happen, here he is. I think he'll win the election. Now, I might pull some clarifiers on this anchor because you know how I always say an anchor can keep you stuck or it can keep you safe. Just looking at the other cards or looking at the line of five, to me, it feels like safety, as though the job will be his. But I'm going to pull on this just to make sure. Second card is the letter, and that stands for votes. I can mirror that with the fourth card, but the card in the middle is the lily. I think he will bring some sanity and calm and reassurance to a city that could use it. Fourth card is clover, and this is lucky. I can mirror it with the letter, so he can get lucky in terms of votes. Now, again, the only card that looks a little bit amorphous because it could be either thing is this anchor. And again, he's mirrored with the anchor. Will they drag him down the two big parties or will he be safely at harbor? So I'm going to pull some cards on that anchor. Let's see what we get. I think he's going to be the next mayor of New York because here's the anchor. The clarifiers for it are the scale, the moon, and the star. So people will understand that, of all the candidates, he is the one who is the fairest, who wants the best for the people. They will really come to know him. He did quite an engaging campaign, and he's continuing to do that. His commercials are great. They're on social media. I don't really watch regular TV, but I've seen them on social media. And he just seems like a really good guy. And this is the card for the future. I can mirror this last card with our very first card. So I think Mamdani will be the um, future face of the mayor of New York. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I'm just reading cards. I'm not a political strategist, uh, but it's very interesting that he won as decisively as he did the primary. And I think that New Yorkers are ready for that change. So that's great. Okay, that's one. So I better mark it off because if I don't mark it off, I'll pull again on it and say, "Oh, this looks familiar," and forget that I did that. Right. Um, the next thing that I wanted to look at before we get to the Supreme Court is something that happened in Virginia. So you know that 47, the anti-intellectual president, who is all in favor of the dumbing down of America, who says he loves the uneducated voter. He said that. Anyway, the latest on his hit list was University of Virginia. Now, what happened was, everybody's supposed to dismantle their DEI initiatives, and the president of UVA, his name was James E. Ryan, had been instrumental in really turning UVA from a kind of a very conservative bastion uh, to somewhere that took DEI very seriously. He really went out of his way to make UVA a fair, equitable, inclusive place. So the Justice Department, of course, that's 47's Justice Department, gave UVA essentially an ultimatum. And they said, either you fire him or we're coming after you. So today he resigned. Um, I will say, I have a nephew who went to UVA, and I really wasn't thrilled about him going there, but what are you going to do? Uh, it had always been known as a bastion of conservatism. And under this guy's leadership, President Ryan, he did try to turn things around. But I know that there are alumni who are who did not like his changes at all. And there are alumni of UVA, apparently, in the Justice Department who were instrumental in causing this series of events such that he has now resigned. Okay, so there's nothing really to read on that. It's just is what it is. But my eye also caught another little thing, which is that there is speculation. If I were Trump, I would say some people are saying, 'cause he loves to say that, some people are saying that Harvard is thinking about settling with the government. God, I hope not. So, but in the light of what's just happened at UVA, um, you know, that's something that they have to take into account. But conversely, they want to take into account the fact that Columbia, who capitulated, is still being harassed by the Justice Department. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I'm hoping that my alma mater, Harvard, will go down with a fight if they go down. Um, because, well, all right. So let's look at Harvard, and what I want to know is what is their thinking on this? Are they going to bend the knee, kiss the ring? What are they going to do at this point? Now they've won a lot of cases, uh, which brings me, of course, to the courts, um, where he has said, where Trump has said you can't have foreign students. We remove your ability to do that. And the lower courts have said, yeah, no, you can't do that. But we'll get to the courts in a minute. Harvard's been really successful in court to date. That could change, especially with the court's ruling on something today, which we'll get to. But let's just look for now. What will Harvard do? Okay, so I'm going to use the tower, Ivy Tower, Ivy League, Ivy Tower, for Harvard. Okay, so let's see what we get. Will Harvard capitulate and settle with the Trump Justice Department? Harvard's hiding deep. Oh, I was going to say hiding deep in the deck. Okay, this stands for Harvard. All right. Now, maybe this is me being wishful thinking. I don't know. I don't think so. When I read, I really try to put my ego behind me and not have it operate. But we have the bouquet, the anchor, towers, this card standing for Harvard. We have the fox, and we have the scythe. And then I pulled some clarifiers on the scythe. So, you know, to date, Harvard's uh, strong stance against being bullied by the Trump administration has really felt like to a lot of us like a gift. At least somebody standing up. This is great. It certainly has been a gift to other academic institutions. It's kind of given them courage, right? Because they've just been stalwart in their resistance and their frontal attacks on him. So that's great. In the center, we have Harvard itself. The fourth card is the fox. Trump may think that he's got some smart lawyers, but they've got nothing on what Harvard's got in its law stables. So, I don't think that Harvard can be outfoxed on the legal front. And then the final card is the scythe. I think they are decisive in their determination to resist. This is what all of us alumni are encouraging them to do, of course. I'm sure other universities are encouraging them to do this. So I think that they understand what a gift their decision is to democracy and academic freedom. So I think they're going to stay the course. But I think that the clarifiers are really interesting. So to clarify the scythe, we have the hart, the mice, and the stork. I like this very much. So they made this decision out of a love for what's right, a love for, academic freedom and integrity. It doesn't mean they're not scared, because courage is not about not being scared. Courage is doing what you need to do in the face of fear, doing it anyway. So this is acknowledging that you know, they are unsure as to how this will all turn out. They worry about that. Nevertheless, they are sticking to their guns. And the stork, it's my card for trouble don't last always. This is the card for positive change. And I can mirror it, it's the last card, with the first card, which is the bouquet. So, for the moment, Harvard will be consistent in its resistance stance against 47. Okay, so that's good news. So I did bring you some good news on a Friday in June when there's not that much good news. So then, okay, here's another one. So then now this brings us to the court. But before we get to the court, I want to go to another university. And this is the University of Florida. Uh, there was a student, a note that I say was, a student named Preston, Preston, Damsky, Damsky. And he was a student at University of Florida, and he was a participant in a seminar for which he had to write a paper. So he wrote his paper, and then he got an award for his paper. Isn't that great? So happy for him that he got an award. The award was given to him by one of the co-teachers of this seminar. His name is John L. Badalamenti, Badalamenti, Badalamenti. And Judge Badalamenti, I said John L., but he is a federal judge. And so this federal judge was a co-teacher in this seminar at University of Florida. He was so impressed with this paper that he awarded it a prize. Do you know what the premise of the paper was? Which brings us to the crux of what I'd like to say today. The paper's thesis posits that the Constitution was only and ever meant to apply to white people. He got an award for it from the University of Florida. Federal judge adjudicated the award and handed it to him. By the way, notice I said that Preston Damsky was a student of University of Florida because after he got the award, I guess he was feeling himself, and he went on social media and posted some anti-Semitic stuff, and so he's been suspended. But not before he got his award for saying that the Constitution applies was only meant to apply to white people. Now, his stance sounds outrageous. The problem is that on the court, and I've discussed this before, I've explained this before, we have two camps, obviously, right, on the Supreme Court. We've got the liberal wing and the conservative wing. But you can break it down even more to originalists and what are they called? Textualists? I guess that's the opposite of originalists. I'm sure someone will tell me if I get it wrong. But anyway, um, textualists, if I'm right, think that the Constitution is a living, breathing document, right? Like, you know how nobody speaks Latin anymore? And they call it a dead language? Well, because Latin sort of got stuck, in time. And other languages morphed from it, right? The Romance languages, for example, like Spanish, Italian, etc. And those are living languages and as is English, because language changes with the times. There are certain expressions that we no longer use. There are expressions that we use now that people from back in the day would say, wait, what? The perfect example, the one I love, and I love language, I think it's just so interesting, but the example I'll give about that is uh, mea culpa. Mea culpa is a Latin expression. Mea means my, and culpa, C-U-L-P-A, means fault. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, meaning my fault, my own most grievous fault. So it would be what you would say when you were doing penance, like at church, right? You were confessing your sins, mea culpa, forgive me, mea culpa. Well, the modern version of that, coming from Black vernacular English is, and I think it's just brilliant. It's my bad. Not I did something bad or I was bad, my bad. Mea culpa, my fault, my bad. I love it. But you see how language changes with time. And again, textualists believe, um, you're reading the Constitution and you're reading it in a particular historical context, that context being modern day. And there's some things that you have to see through a different lens. So, for example, if we have a document that says all men are created equal, we understand men to stand for men and women, right? Okay. Then you have the originalists. And all of the conservatives on the court, I would argue, are originalists, including handmaid Amy Coney Barrett. She's very smart, but she's also an originalist. And what is an originalist? It means that kind of like they make the same argument that the guy that won the prize makes, that you don't interpret according to the changing mores of a culture. The Constitution is the Constitution. So, so you can imagine why that would be a conservative stance. And I don't think it's that much of a stretch to go from this guy's paper arguing that the Constitution was meant only for white people. It's not such a stretch to go from him saying that in his paper to seeing what the court is doing today in terms of dismantling the rights of those of us of color, those of us who are women, those of us who are LGBTQ friendly. Um, you see what I'm saying? So, why am I bringing that up? Well, so birthright citizenship. It has long been understood that if you are from somewhere else and your baby happens to be born here, that baby is now a United States citizen. Because why? Common sense, because it was born on foreign soil. I mean, American soil. It could well have dual citizenship with America and the country of its parents' birth. but it definitely has American citizenship. Well, you know who doesn't like that at all and wants to eliminate it. So this was a question before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court actually did not weigh in on birthright citizenship, on whether it should still exist or not. Instead, what they said is, oh, you know what? We'll look at it later on down the line. Pam Bondi says that means that they're going to look at it again in October. But um, the bottom line is there were 28 states, I think, 28 Democratic states that said, yeah, that's the law. That's what it should be. We agree with that and we respect that. But then there's a whole bunch of other states that didn't sign on to that agreement, meaning if you are born in California of foreign parents, you are an American citizen because California was one of the signatories, right? If you're born in, I don't know, Arkansas, the question is open as to whether you are an American citizen. See, these are the times when the government loves uh, states' rights because it suits their purpose. So this is scary. It's a slippery slope. Um, there may well end up being people who, you know, will travel across state borders and they were an American until they crossed the border and then they became whatever their parents are. That could happen. So we are really seeing things deteriorate. It's not good. Um, the other thing is the other big decision that the Supreme Court came down on is how 47 keeps getting smacked down by state high courts? Well, that's a thing of the past. According to the Supreme Court now, what if a court, if somebody sues Trump for doing whatever, um, the judge in a particular state cannot make a judgment that then goes for the whole country. Now, I mean, you can kind of get why that would be, but really, when you think about the fact that who's the president here, so this means that I don't know. Let's see. Let's take an example. Uh, it could be anything. He does some egregious thing, and a federal judge says, "Yeah, you can't do that." And the federal judge is based in a particular state. Whatever that judge says does not go for the whole country anymore. So what will happen is that there will have to be individual suits by individual plaintiffs, which will clog the courts and take forever, and everybody doesn't have money to sue like that. So effectively, it hamstrings these courts and makes Trump the king. There is no silver lining in this. Um, it just is what it is. I mean, I don't even know what question to look at because the court has spoken. They have given him even more powers. So all of these lawsuits that you've seen filed, and then you breathe a sigh of relief because there are injunctions against him doing whatever. Well, that's not true anymore. Uh, okay, so for example, like I don't know, uh, the way that ICE operates, maybe a state could object. And then a federal court could say, yeah, okay, all that ICE activity has to cease. Well, it doesn't. because he maybe will make that ruling for his state, although, of course, state law cannot trump federal law, so that's not a good example. But you get what I'm saying. I hope you get what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Trump has more power, infinitely more power today than he had yesterday, thanks to this court ruling. So I'm just going to leave that there. Um, the big beautiful bill. So thanks to the Senate parliamentarian, I think it's the parliamentarian, there are certain things that have been pulled out of this bill, which is really good. So, for example, Medicare will not be able to be decimated. Medicaid and Medicare won't be able to be decimated the way that they wanted to do it. And there's other things in there as well. So, 47 has given the instruction that he wants that bill on his desk, having been passed by House and Senate. He wants it on his desk July 4th. Wonder why? So that he can sign it. But there is real debate as to whether or not that can happen. So there will be a vote this weekend. Um, and I guess I just want to look and see, will some version of the big beautiful bill that is not any of those things, will it be passed in time for him to sign it on the 4th of July? Um, Parliamentarian did her job, did the best that she could, was able to pull a lot of stuff out of that bill that had no relevance to the budget because, it's a budget bill. So why do you have all these other things in there, But let's just see if something gets passed by the 4th of July, passed and signed. So I'm going to use the letter, and that will stand for the bill. Okay, so this is the bill that Trump wants to sign on the 4th of July. And you know what? I don't think Trump even cares what's in it. He's all about the theater of the thing, right? He just wants to be seen signing something called the Big Beautiful Bill. So, all right, I'm going to pull some clarifiers. Okay, so we have Clover, we have Scythe, we have the bill, we have the coffin, and we have birds. I'd rather have seen those two transposed, but that's okay. So Trump is really rushing them. He really wants this bill passed quick, fast, and in a hurry. Hurry up, do it, get it done. Bill is in the middle, but I can mirror the coffin with the scythe. This indicates that there will be huge changes to the bill. It also could mean that it dies on the vine and they have to start from scratch. And the fact that we have the birds at the end of the line makes me think that. Um, I can mirror the birds with Clover. So if Clover is quick, fast, and in a hurry, and Trump's twisting everybody's arm, this is the card for conversation and deliberation. And there are a lot of Republicans who are not happy with this bill because they're going to have to go back to their constituents and explain why certain things are the way that they are. So there's a lot of talking, but they have to talk fast because the 4th of July is around the corner and we're coming up on a weekend. So they will probably not go home at all, but stay at the Capitol and try to hash this out. So I pulled clarifiers on the bill itself, and I have the young woman, the heart, and the ring. Now, this is the bill. This tells me that it gets way watered down, that it's a lot weaker than it currently is. And it's already been weakened, as I said, by the parliamentarian. Um, People have to figure out what they love more. Trump, their constituents, their jobs, you know, and I think it's just going to go around and around and around. This makes me feel like they'll have to go back to the drawing board and draw something new up. And that whatever the Senate comes up with, well, that's going to then have to go back to the House for the House to vote on. And there are people in the House and the Senate who are like, I didn't know that was in it, or I can't vote for that. My constituents won't approve that. So, I mean, it's going to go around and around and around. Well, let's hold on a minute. Let's see what else. So then we have the coffin. Clarifiers are the dog, the sun, and the book. Again, people are feeling stuck, trapped. Where should their loyalty lie? With Trump or with their constituents who will be damaged? It will be very clear that they really don't know what to do. They're stuck, they're trapped. They're boxed in, so to speak, and they don't know what to do. Here we have the birds. Clarifiers are the moon, the tower, and the ship. So here's all these, lawmakers thinking, among other things, about their reputations and about their longevity in government. They would love to be able to live to fight another day or to get another paycheck. Right. So I can mirror this ship with Clover. And by the end of the reading, it makes me feel like something will be passed quick, fast, and in a hurry. But I think it will be a shadow of its original self. Still really bad, but with a lot of the wind taken out of its sails. So that's what I think. Uh, I think that's it for today. It's a difficult day. It's a dark day because the Supreme Court has made it very clear that they want some form of monarchy as long as it's Trump who's the head guy. Um, they will not dilute, whittle down the powers that they gave him. They won't do it. In fact, they'll find ways to give him more. Uh, Ketanji Brown Jackson, what did she say? Because it was quite the sobering quote. I thought I had written it down. No. Okay, so hold on. Let me just see if I can find it because okay, here's her dissent. Huh. Amy Coney Barrett rips Ketanji Jackson Brown over her dissent in the birthright citizenship case. She said, "We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself." So again, that's an originalist right there. right? She just makes my case for me. Um, what she said, what Ketanji Brown Jackson said, uh, hold on. She said, uh, it's important to recognize that the executive's bid to vanquish so-called universal injunctions, this is the not the birthright citizenship, but this is the right of courts to make a decision that goes for the whole country. And the court said you can't do that anymore. Universal injunctions is at bottom a request for this court's permission to engage in unlawful behavior. When the government says, quote, do not allow the lower courts to enjoin executive action universally as a remedy for unconstitutional conduct, what it is actually saying is that the executive wants to continue doing something that a court has determined violates the Constitution. Please allow this. Like, if Trump says, I want to send um, undocumented immigrants or citizens, whoever, to the Sudan. There used to be a way for a federal judge to say, no, you can't do that. You have to stop. Now it's a different playing field. Now he can do whatever he wants. And then when everybody gets around to it, when the Supreme Court gets to looking at it eventually, then they'll look at it. But meanwhile, you've been in the Sudan for how long? Under what kind of conditions? Um, This is some solicitation. With its ruling today, the majority largely grants the government's wish. But in my view, if this country is going to persist as a nation of laws and not men, the judiciary has no choice but to deny it. So there was another quote by her, but I can't find it now. Bottom line, oh, she said, I see the words. She said, um, hold on. So Sotomayor, this is Sonia Sotomayor, which was joined by Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. So Sotomayor said, today, the threat is to birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, a different administration may try to seize firearms from law-abiding citizens or prevent people of certain faiths from gathering to worship. That holding renders constitutional guarantees meaningful in name only for any individuals who are not parties to a lawsuit. When the Constitution and the president face off, the Constitution falls. Um, and uh, she talked about this being a dire circumstance, potentially dooming our democracy. And that's why I started out saying that this is starting to look like the fall of Rome. Because, well, if you read my Substack, you'll see what I said, which is in a nutshell, um, the Congress has failed to do its job. The executive it doesn't need to be explained. And the judiciary has tried its best to stave off disaster. But now the highest court in the land says, get out of the way. Get out of the way. We want to make room for this guy to be king. So, be in the streets, write your representative, et cetera, et cetera. But we are in really desperate times, I think. Uh, And just to add insult to injury, let me just add, because I know I have a lot of Canadian viewers, you know how 47's supposedly been in talks with various countries about um, trade. Well, apparently, trade talks with Canada have ceased because Canada is about to start collecting digital services taxes. And this will impact US technology giants, right? The ones who've cozied up to Trump. And so, because his wealthy tech friends, the Black Hat MAGAs, will be hurt by these taxes, 47 says, well, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. I'm not playing with Canada anymore. So my thought on that is good for Canada. Um, why shouldn't they tax this digital services thing? I mean, by the way, speaking of good for Canada, let me shout out some other foreign person. The Queen of the Netherlands is a queen indeed. And if you have not seen the video of her standing next to Trump and not being able to help herself from mimicking something that he does with his mouth, you have to see it. It's priceless. And I'm sure she'd say something like, "Oh, I didn't even what do you mean? I didn't even know I was doing it." And I don't think she could help it. I think you know how certain things you just like do, it's like a twitch or you know, a spasm or something. I think she just was next to him and could not help herself. But it is just, if you need some comic relief, it's about like 3 seconds worth of comic relief. And she is a queen indeed. Anyway, this is a hard day. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything, to be Pollyanna about anything. We are sort of marching towards something that is not good. It is interesting that for as many of us as are against what's going on, the numbers who are all for it, or at least not opposed to it, seems to be growing. What's that about? I mean, as I said in the beginning of the video, I think it could be that people are despairing and saying, well, if I can't beat them, I'll join them. Uh, but it's not good. It is not good. So anyway, I will leave you with that on this Friday. I don't have anybody scheduled for Sunday, but I may come on anyway myself and maybe take a deep dive on what the 4th will look like, July 4th, um, which is the next day of resistance. So maybe I'll do that on Sunday. But anyway, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings, but the court is not our friend. The Supreme Court, they are naked in their attempt to, um, I don't know, I feel like bear out what that guy wrote in his paper that got him an award, that the Constitution is for white people. And I mean, let me just say one last word about that. If the founding fathers rose from the grave and were polled as to whether or not it was their intention for the Constitution to apply only to white people, they would agree. They would agree. I mean, some of them were slaveholders. None of them were advocates for women's suffrage. And gay anything? Forget about it. So we talk about a more perfect union, and that's a lovely sentiment, right? I mean, it makes the case that the founding fathers knew they weren't perfect, but we can always do better. We can always do better. We can always do better. But the fact of the matter is, if they were polled, they would probably say, yeah, no, no, we meant this for white people, white landed men. as a matter of fact. But that's why we have two schools of thought about the Constitution. There are people who agree with that, and then there are people who are textualists who say, okay, well, we're 200 years past that, 250 years past that. So we need to read that Constitution with modern eyes and draw some conclusions that no, maybe they didn't draw back then because they didn't have the foresight or the wherewithal, we'll just say, to take that stuff into account, the kind of things that we can take into account here. But I guess my overall question, and the one that I've been pondering in the past couple of days, the ones that I will continue certainly to ponder this weekend on my own, is um, if this nation was founded on that kind of quicksand, well, maybe it's understandable that we may well not last past the 250-year mark. If you're founded on exclusion and subjugation and racism and homophobia and classism, how are you one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all at the same time? No wonder people are losing their minds here because we live this very schizophrenic existence as a country. I always would say it feels like being, as a Black person, feels like being in a fun house. Like I hear what they're saying, but that's not the reality. Now we're all having to confront the fact that we live in a fun house, that our basis, our what underpins us is quicksand. So does something that is grounded in quicksand deserve to stand? I don't know. Entertainment purposes only. I'm just a card reader here. But I think it's worth each of us pondering. What does it mean to become a more perfect union? And what if we have different ideas about what that means? And what if it's just lip service that people are paying when they say more perfect union? And really, what they mean is the thing that that guy got the award for saying out loud that the Constitution essentially is only for white people. Something to ponder on your summer in June weekend. Something really, I think, worth pondering prior to the 4th of July. We can't put our hands in that quicksand, heads in that quicksand, because they've already been there for 250 years. Um, Trump doesn't want anybody to be woke. Well, if we're not woke, we're going to be sunk. So anyway, that's my diatribe for Friday, and I will see you all soon. If this has been kind of not your cup of tea, I totally understand because it's not my cup of tea either to have to say these things. But I just, I hope that in addition to reading cards and talking about current events, that I'm giving you some food for thought because certainly it's food for thought for me. So I'll see you all soon. Take care.